This was a big story is a little bit of an exaggeration. This
Huge story.
This was a story that came out last week that people were talking a little bit about. There was a former famous baseball player named David Justice. I know this because David Justice played for the Atlanta Braves. The Minnesota Twins played the Atlanta Braves in the 1991 World Series, so his name was etched in my brain. He went on this podcast and he was talking about life with his ex-wife, Halle Berry, who is, of course, one of the biggest names in Hollywood, has been for a very long time. And he was getting absolutely ruthlessly mocked on the internet because in this podcast appearance, he talked about how he felt that she wasn't what he referred to as motherly. And, of course, there was more to it than just that, but people kind of deduced it down to the most rage bait-inducing part of this conversation and turned it into, at least in my opinion, more than was actually there. But Halle Berry has since responded in a snarky way, so I feel like we should talk about it. So let's first watch this clip of David Justice while he was on this podcast talking about his life with her, and then we'll go and we'll look at what she said, and then we can go through it. So here it is.
We probably could have made it if I knew about therapy. If we knew about therapy, we probably could have made it, because we never had any major issues like that. It's just that because I was young and had only been in, honestly, one real relationship before her, my knowledge and my understanding, my wisdom around relationships just wasn't vast. So I'm looking at my mom, and I'm a Midwest guy, so in my mind, I'm thinking a wife at that time should cook, clean,
traditional,
and then I'm thinking, okay, if we have kids, is this the woman I want to have kids with and build a family with? And at that time, as a young guy, she don't cook, don't clean, don't really seem like motherly. And then we start having issues. Listen, we never, I'll say this. We never had any issues about other women, other men.
So that was the majority. The rest of that stuff, that's not what people were clipping. They were clipping the stuff about him talking about her not being motherly. They were married in like 93, like the early 90s, right? Before her career really took off. She was not super famous yet. They were married in 93 and divorced in 97. What a lot of people didn't understand was at that time, he was the bigger name. He was Rookie of the Year in the National League in 1991. He went to 2 World Series in 91, 92. We beat you in 91, guys. Sorry about that. Kent Herbeck says hi. And then he was a league all-star in 93. And I was like, what was he making money-wise at that time? And it was like, he was worth like an estimated of $6.3 million around 97 before endorsements, and a big part of baseball contracts, a baseball player's wealth doesn't necessarily just come from the contract. It comes from whatever endorsement deals that they get. And then towards the end of their relationship was when she kind of hit it big with a movie called Executive Decision, which was like, she got like $1 million to play that role in that movie, and got a contract with Revlon for like $3 million. And that's a lot of money too. But during the early parts of their relationship, that wouldn't have been the thing. So the question is it even bad to necessarily expect that from someone? Because he framed it in a way that was like, this is all I knew. Again, he was being very apologetic. He's like, look, I grew up in the Midwest. Yeah. This is all I knew about these types of things. And to his credit, he met a woman named Rebecca Villalobos the next year, and they've been married for 24 years since then.
Yeah.
So I look at how he's ended up, and I have a hard time thinking that there was any malice in that comment.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring that up is because she did clap back. This is what she posted. Cooking and cleaning and mothering.
Oh gosh.
The thing is, not trying to be mean, she's been married 3 times. First to David Justice, then to a guy named Eric Benet, and then Olivier Martinez, who was an actor. So you know, depending on what you think about how things work out here, I don't want to fault her because, look, marriages don't work out for some people. That's fine. But when it comes down to it, it seems like he's living his values. He's living the values that he was taught when he was younger. They both have kids. Now, she's been married 3 times, but they both have kids, and she's actually gone out of her way to talk about how important being a mother is to her. So it's not to say that she's not somebody that's, I guess, a bad person necessarily. She's got a family. She loves her kids. And to pretend like divorce isn't an issue or like that divorce is rare in society would be dishonest, I think, because it is very, very common for kids to come from homes that are divorced, right?
Right.
But he's got 3 kids with his wife, and she's got 2 kids, and she didn't have her first kid until she was 41.
Whoa.
She had her second kid at 47.
Oh my gosh. Dude, she should be a grandmother by then.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So, and that was the most interesting part to me, because I was just thinking about it. Like, I'm, as we've talked endlessly on this show about, I'm getting married in less than a month. And I will be 40 next year. So when we have kids, I'll be, you know, pretty old.
Yeah, but like the men can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but the thing is that's still a conversation men have to have because it's like, dude, do you want to be able to bend down and play with your kids? Do you want to be able to go outside and run with your kids when they're young? It's something that everybody has to take into account. And if you are a guy who's having kids later in life, you have to ask yourself, like, what am I going to do to keep myself in shape? Like, literally right now, guys, I experienced I had a shoulder injury last year. I tore cartilage in my shoulder. I still have a bump there that they said it's never going to go away because I couldn't afford surgery to fix it. And right now, like on Sunday, I slept bad and my neck has been a mess since then. And I was skating last night and there was legitimately tricks I couldn't do because I couldn't turn my head a certain amount, a certain direction. So you have to take that very, very seriously if you're going to have kids. But I don't think that anything he said, was there anything in this clip that you felt seemed off? Because it just felt like he was getting a lot of hate, and most of it was from people who were saying, like, imagine telling telling Halle Berry, I almost said Katy Perry, almost imagine telling Halle Berry that she needs to stay home with the kids and cook and clean. That's not what he's saying. He's saying that people are different and can have different values and can want different things.
Yeah, he was just saying the values are misaligned. He wasn't saying it made her inferior or anything. And I respect his honesty.
Yeah.
That, like, he can reflect on something that happened over, 20 years ago.
He even said the thing about, like, therapy. He's like, maybe if we'd had therapy back then.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a cope anyways, but for the most part.
Yeah, and then like you said, I mean, the proof's in the pudding, because the next time he got married, it seemed to be, I don't know, maybe he learned some lessons. I don't know, he said he didn't have much relationship experience. I don't know if that's necessarily a prerequisite for a successful marriage, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, look, Halle Berry has this trend of, like, she loves to post the thirst traps in her 50s, which always initiates, like, some discussion back and forth with people about whether that's appropriate at that age, and people can have that discussion all they want. I would be more inclined to dunk on her if she was childless, but she clearly has kids and loves her kids. She says that being a mother has been the greatest thing that's ever happened to her. You can dunk on her all you want for relationships not working out, but that's not always, that's rarely, if ever, one person's fault. It's, you could say it's mate selection, whatever, but people make mistakes. But I'm just like, why would you take the time to respond to this?
I know, that's just, especially because he's on, like, Matt Barnes' podcast. I mean, that's like... That's not worth a response if you're Halle Berry. We're talking about Matt Barnes here.
Like, maybe he'd been on Joe Rogan. Like,
yeah, if
okay,
it was Rogan,
fine.
it'd be like, okay, or Tim Cast IRL.
Yeah, we need to get him on.
Matt Barnes?
Be like, oh, David Justice. Like, so you're like a trad dude, right? He's like, what are you? And then he's like, you politically brained weirdo. It's like, what are you talking about? Even the guy said traditional. I feel like that's because it's a buzzword now.
Yeah.
And people hear the term traditional, and like now trad wife has been turned into this weird type of like internet weapon.
Just an aesthetic.
It's like it's a form of classification now that doesn't even necessarily, it almost never comports with reality, which is like being a trad wife means like putting on a flowery dress and baking things in front of your on your phone,
right?
Like, and filming a video of you baking things.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's kind of sad. If that tells me she's not terribly happy, is that she's
because she took the time to respond.
Yeah, it's especially because like like you said, when you watch his what he was saying, it didn't seem to be like hostile.
No.
He was just trying to provide an answer for the question. Her seems very hostile.
I think part of it
chip
is
on her
like
shoulder.
working in this space is like, if you do a lot of speaking on camera, even as you're saying it, you know what's going to get clipped. You're like,
Yeah.
Like, you know what is that going to end up being, that thing that gets clipped so that people can take it out of context. And almost never is it like, and that's with most things. Like even with what we were looking at earlier with the dating show, edited in a way to make it look more inflammatory than it was, because all the dudes look stupid, but it's because they can't actually see the person that's talking on the video.
Right.
Like, the internet is, I call it like a weapon of deconstruction, which is like, whatever your first take on something is, I'm more inclined to believe that it has more to do with what you're thinking about in the moment than whether it actually lines up with what you're watching. Right? Like, it's because that is on your brain. And we talked earlier this week about the idea of being politically brained, which a lot of people are.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you look at this through the lens of what's important in your life right now, which is politics or gender issues and things like that, rather than just being something where you can look at it and be like, oh, well, he said this and, you know, he seemed pretty nonchalant.
Yeah. I mean, like me personally, every bit of information that I take in that is newsworthy in any sort of way runs its way through a framework, like a ideological framework, before it can come out on the other side.
Do you catch yourself doing that?
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's just the way that I'm able to process and pick apart information. That's just the way it goes.
Has that changed over time for you?
No, I mean, I don't like. As far as like, I've always been pretty conservative, so you just grow up. The information's presented to you a certain way, so that's the way that you're used to it being presented, and then eventually you just assume that your ideology is correct about the outcome of every story. And so you're like, if I can process it that way, then I'll be correct.
I never have that, but I never have, like, I guess part of it's just because, like, for me, the majority of my life is like Olivia literally made a joke last night while we were like eating dinner. She was talking about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. I was like, I don't have an opinion.
Yeah.
She's like, how do you have the job that you have when you have like no opinions on anything? And it's not that I don't have opinions on everything. It's that most of the time I feel like to be successful, at least in this space, you have to operate under the principle that whatever your take is the correct one. But I tend to always operate under the premise that I've missed a detail, or I don't have the full story, or there's a strong possibility. And I think it's important to always operate under the premise that you can be wrong. And that doesn't sell copy, as they say.
Right.
Like, in this space, it doesn't do well to be unsure of yourself.
Yeah.
Like, my biggest hurdle a lot of times is that when I share whatever my thoughts on something, it's like, yeah, maybe.
Right.
But I don't know. And maybe that is because my framework growing up was different than other people's. But I think that's
because like, I'm super biased, and I'm pretty open about, like, when I say I'm a conservative, it means there's a conservative bias. Like, I can't evaluate. I mean, I'm capable of evaluating something with like a neutral mind, but it's not conducive for forming an opinion, because like I said, as a conservative, I feel like generally when I run, you know, a news or policy or something through my framework, I feel like generally the outcome is correct, even if I've missed a detail. The general idea is correct.
I mean, even when people were talking, this is such a sidebar, but when we were talking, wait, first here we got a 20 here from Kyle Dixon.
Whoa.
Says, it's my B-day, have some cash. Happy birthday,
Kyle.
It's a good day to have your one day after Mary. That's
there
important.
You go. Yeah.
When we were having the discussion about, again, major sidebar, like when we were having the discussion about like Trump taking over DC police, like federalizing police, my first instinct with all of that is like, as soon as Dems get back in power, you've set the precedent of federalizing law enforcement. And I wasn't taking into account that DC is not a city, that it's a federal district, and that it's not the same thing as doing so in a Chicago or a New York, whatever, fine.
Right.
But I have a hard time getting past my initial framework, which is usually like trying to look into where the hypocrisy will end up being
Sure.
found
Yeah.
or how it will be used against you. And again, it's not the most interesting framework for most people because they want to hear like crush your enemies and
Yeah.
and
That's
and
where I
do
come
this.
from, yeah.
So it is what it is. I know that that's a bit of a sidebar, but I thought it was interesting. So.
Yeah, no, it's good, and it makes for interesting conversation. Like, you don't want everyone just on the same page at all times.
Hashtag David Justice did nothing wrong. And I have my strong feelings about him because we beat him in the 91 World Series. So I
You
can always,
almost pity him.
can always hold that over there.
You have a bit of pity.
over their heads. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.